So today we are going to do the properties of quadrilaterals, which is something that you will be writing on this this term in your paper 2. So the properties of quadrilaterals, we ended here. We looked at some of the definitions, and what I'm going to do now is just going to switch screens so that we can actually look at a presentation that I've got for you on the properties of quadrilaterals. Let's just wait for it. There we go. Alrighty. So let's start by talking about what is a quadrilateral. Put in the chat, if you think of a quadrilateral, how would you describe it or define it? What are its key characteristics of a quadrilateral? Pop it in the chat. 4 sides. Yes, definitely 4 sides. 4-sided shape. What else? Think about its angles. A square is an example of a quadrilateral. 4 angles. What do the angles add up to? Do we know? Angles equal 360. Well done. Don't worry, Nosipo. We are going through all of that Euclidean geometry stuff. Okay, so we can all agree, I think, that it is a 4-sided shape in 2 dimensions. So it's not a 3-dimensional shape. All of the sides are straight. That's important. And the 4 interior angles add up to 360 degrees. Feel free to take as many screenshots as you like of this presentation as we go along. Okay, now we're going to start looking at the different quadrilaterals. And the first one is a square. Now, what are the properties of a square? Pop it in the chat. What are some of the properties of a square? All the sides are equal. Sides are equal. What else? What else? All the angles are equal, and they are 90 degrees. That's right. So also they've got other properties. The square's got other properties to do with the diagonals as well. So we need to know those too, but we'll go through that as well in a moment. So all sides are of equal length. The opposite sides are parallel. I'm glad some of you said that. That's important. And then the interior angles are equal. And then all the angles of a square are 90 degrees. Okay. Right. Let's go on to our next one. Rectangle. So some properties of a rectangle. Pop it in this chat. Opposite sides are equal. Nice. Opposite sides are parallel. All the angles are 90 degrees. Okay, so opposite sides are parallel and equal in length. Well done. Every angle is a right angle or 90 degrees. And then something important is that squares can be classified as rectangles. And why is that so? Because squares also have 90-degree angles. So the corners are all 90 degrees. So squares can be rectangles, but rectangles cannot be squares because rectangles do not have equal sides. Okay, all their sides equal. It only has opposite sides that are equal. Okay, like I say, take screenshots if you don't try and write it all down, just take some screenshots. Okay, rhombus. What are the properties of a rhombus? Pop it in the chat. Fancy says the diagonals bisect, but bisect what? Ah, there it is. iPhone, tell us your real name so we don't keep calling you iPhone. All the sides are equal. The angles are all equal. All sides are equal. Okay, let's see. What are the properties? All four sides are equal. Too acute and too obtuse. Okay, so be careful here. The angles are not all equal. All the sides are equal. The diagonally opposite angles are equal, like it's stated here. So the two opposite corners, those angles are equal. Two angles are acute and two are obtuse. Nice. The opposite sides are parallel and the diagonals bisect each other at right angles. Okay, Lusanda is writing a nice rhombus has both pairs of opposite angles equal, has both pairs of opposite sides parallel, and all four sides equal. Lovely, Lusanda, very nice. Now, a rhombus can also be classified as a parallelogram. Why do we say that? Because the opposite sides are parallel. So a rhombus and a rectangle and a square, they are all actually also parallelograms, but we haven't done the parallelogram yet. So here we go. What are the properties of a parallelogram? Put it in the chat if you know some of the properties. Both pairs of opposite sides are parallel. Kuhle says yes. Nokotula, if we say parallel sides, we must say which ones are parallel. The opposite sides, Eunice, that's right. What else? What about the angles? What about the diagonals? Not everything is the same as a rhombus. Something's different. Yes, the opposite angles are equal. Nice. And what about the diagonals? What can we say about the diagonals? The diagonals bisect. That's right, but they don't bisect at 90. That is the property of a rhombus. Okay. Right, so let's see. Two pairs of equal parallel sides. Diagonally opposite angles are equal, or opposite angles are equal. Two angles are acute, two are obtuse. And a rhombus is a type of parallelogram. Which property means that not all parallelograms are rhombuses, and that is because of all the equal sides. Okay, here's our I always think of the trapezium as a bit of an odd one out. So what do we know of the properties of a trapezium? Also, it's a quadrilateral, but what makes it a quadrilateral? One pair, nice, Melokuchle, one pair of opposite sides are parallel. Not all sides are equal, although that can happen. One pair of parallel sides. Remember, guys, we just asked that you remain on mute. We didn't go through the house rules tonight because we do have a lot to do this evening. So just reminder, remain on mute, please. Okay, now let's go to the kite. And I was saying, I don't like the kite. I don't know why. It just, it's such a weird shape. I don't know, Ms. Coco, what do you think? But anyway, let's not be negative about the kite.
No, what is this discrimination, ma'am? I mean,
okay, so I think the kite is complicated. That's why, because it's got like the two and then the other two, and then it's the one diagonal and then the other. It's like, yeah. Anyway, we can deal with
others, I admit.
No, it's not. It requires a lot more thinking. Okay, so what is, you guys are popping properties in the chat. Well done. Yes, Nokotula. You have your hand up. Nokotula.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I was wondering, what does adjacent mean?
Adjacent means next to each other. So these two sides with the one marker and the other marker, they're adjacent. And then this one with the 1 marker and the 2, they are also adjacent. So it just means next to. Okay, so the kite has 2 pairs of equal adjacent sides. And then the diagonals bisect each other at right angles. But that's not quite right. We must just be careful here. They don't bisect each other. It's just they, when they cross, it's 90 degrees. And then 1 pair of opposite angles are equal, 1 pair. Okay, so that's a kite. So we're going to do a quick little quiz, see how well you guys know your properties. So pop in the chat when you have an answer, right? So all of my sides and angles are equal. What am I? Pop it in the chat if you know. Let's be quick. Square. I agree. Square. All my sides and angles are equal. The only one that fits that description is a square. Okay, next one. All of my sides are equal and I have 2 acute angles. What am I? All of my sides are equal and I have 2 acute angles. Rhombus. Well done, everybody. Excellent. I have 1 pair of parallel sides. What am I? 1 pair of parallel sides. Trapezium. That's right. 1 pair of parallel sides makes it a trapezium. My adjacent sides are of equal length and I have 1 pair of equal angles. What am I? Kite. Sure, you guys are fast. I'm a kite. Well done. I have 4 right angles, but my sides are not all equal. What am I? Rectangle. Excellent. Well done, everybody. Okay, we're going to start now by using the properties and seeing if we can find some of the missing angles. So we've got here that this is a parallelogram and we have angle B and angle C that's missing. What would you say angle B is? And just read carefully at the top. This shape is a parallelogram. Harty says it's 70. Everyone seems to agree. Well done. I also think it's 70 for 2 reasons. The opposite angles of a parallelogram are equal. That's the quickest one. Just be careful with your sides and your angles, eh? So here the opposite side. Yeah, I got confused as well. The opposite angles are equal. Okay, so A is 110. That will mean C is 110. D is 70 and B is 70. Okay, and then there's a way to check if you are right. If you add up all your angles, it must equal 360 degrees. Okay, next one. What are the missing angles for D and C? We have a trapezium here. Pop it in the chat if you know.
Ma'am, can I ask a question while everyone's popping their answer in the chat? I've heard that this kind of shape is actually called an isosceles trapezium. Is that correct? That
is correct, yes. And you can also have a right angle trapezium. Okay, so what Tobians are saying, something's equal to 85, but I don't know. Did I ask them for C or for D? If it's C, then 85 is right, and then D will also be 85. And we get the 85 by doing co-interior angles. Or we can say all of the angles must add up to 360 degrees. And because of this side AD and BC being equal, we can subtract from 360 190, and that's going to give you 170, and then divide it by 2. Now, I think the quickest way was just to do co-interior angles and then yeah, for both of them. That was probably the quickest way. Right. So here we have, if angle A is 120 and D is 40, what are angles B and C? How do you know? So now angle A is 120 and D is 40. So let's first do angle C. I think that one's going to, C is going to be 120, Ayabunga, that's right. How do you know? Opposite angles of a kite. Nice. Opposite angles of a kite are equal. Just to remember to include kite when you say opposite angles. So then C is also 120. Then what is B going to be? If we have 120 and 120 and 40, and then B is how much? Careful, only one pair of opposite sides of a kite are equal. What do we get? 80. That's right. 80 we get because then we just use the interior angles that must add up to 360. Let's see if that all is right. And I definitely think it is. There we go. C is 120 and then B is 80. Alrighty. So that's just our little warm up on properties of quadrilaterals and then using those properties to solve for angles. And that's basically what we're going to spend the rest of the lesson doing. So the properties of quadrilaterals, I want you to take a screenshot of this diagram here, and I want you to this weekend before Tuesday, I want you to fill this in. So basically what it says is, here's a trapezium and what makes this shape a trapezium. And we said that what makes it a trapezium is one pair of opposite sides are parallel. So then you put in that property for the trapezium. And then the same with the parallelogram, the kite, the rhombus, the square, and the rectangle. Okay, so I'm going to keep it there for a few seconds and you can take a screenshot and then I'll scroll down so that you can get the rest. Okay, there's the rest. Something's in the chat. Got it. Okay. Okay, and then on Tuesday we'll come back to it and we're actually gonna check that you've got all the right properties, and then you can use this as a study page, just a quick cheat sheet with all the properties of all the quadrilaterals on it. You can use a textbook to help you if you don't know all the properties, but just give it your best. We will go through all the answers, but I do want you to first try it. Okay, we're going to carry on doing a bit of identifying the different shapes before we actually, we do have some time before we actually go on to doing some more angles and quadrilaterals. Right, so here we've got the following quadrilaterals are determine whether the following quadrilaterals are parallelograms or not. If the shape is a parallelogram, give a reason for your answer. Okay, I'm going to do the first one with you so that you can see how it works. So we've got the shape here. The opposite sides are parallel. So I would say, yes, this is a parallelogram. And the reason is that the opposite sides, I'm going to change my wording here just to be more, both pairs of opposite sides. Opposite sides are parallel. That sometimes happens, Ashley. It sometimes happens. Okay, let's go to question B. Pop in the chat if you think this is a parallelogram, and if it is, give a reason why. Remember to give a reason why. Okay, so let's think about this one. Some of you are on the right track. We've got the parallel sides and the opposite sides are equal. And because of those parallel sides, we'll actually end up with these angles also equal because of the co-interior angles. So yes, this is a parallelogram. And the reason for that is the opposite angles are equal. Okay, good. Let's go to C. We'll do a few more just so we get the hang of it. C, is this a parallelogram? Look carefully. Yes, that's right. Not a parallelogram. The opposite angles are not equal. Just because these are equal doesn't make it a parallelogram. Okay, and let's go to D. Is D a parallelogram? Remember to give a reason when you say yes. Yes, this one is. The opposite angles are equal. Okay, and then let's go to E. Buchle says yes, because the diagonals bisect. Okay, for E, we do not have opposite angles equal. We only have the diagonals bisecting. And I agree, yes. This is a parallelogram because the diagonals bisect. Okay, and then the last one. What about F? Is this a parallelogram? For those who are saying no, I want to know why you say no. And if you're saying yes, I also want to know why you say yes. Give a reason, guys. Buchle says yes, the diagonals bisect. The diagonals bisect indeed, and the diagonals are also equal. So if this is a parallelogram, I'm going to ask another question. Which parallelogram is this? We are guessing, don't guess. It's not a square. We are just guessing. There's only one quadrilateral. There we go, Nsaku. It's a rectangle, in fact. There's only one quadrilateral with diagonals that are equal in length and also bisect. And that's a rectangle. Okay, good stuff. Let's see what else we had here. Let's start here with angles in quadrilaterals. Okay. So, so just to get back to the properties, you need to know your properties very, very well. So that's why I want you to spend some time this weekend. I know you've got other like exams and stuff to study for, but spend some time this weekend getting good with the properties, and I promise you it's going to make your life so much easier if you know those properties a little bit better. Ayabunga wants to know, how come in the square they aren't equal? How come? That's a bit of a longer explanation, but for now, I think Ayabunga just learn that the properties at it's only the rectangle that have equal diagonals. How is it a rectangle if a rectangle has 2 longer sides and 2 shorter sides? Yes, it does, but it also has diagonals that are equal in length. It's like Miss Coco's got bob hair and she wears glasses, so she's got all of those features. It's not just the longer sides and the shorter sides. It's the fact that the diagonals are equal as well. Okay. So diagonals can make a rectangle a square. Yes. Yes, Nokutula. And a square a rectangle. Exactly. That's exactly right. And also just remember the square. What makes a square is the fact that the sides are all equal. Okay, right. Okay, guys, let's look at this question. So I'm going to do this first one with you, and let's see how it goes. Okay, so the first thing when you get a question like this is you need to decide what quadrilateral this is. So this one, when we look at the features and stuff, it's just a quadrilateral. It's not one of the other special ones. So what do we know about a quadrilateral? All the angles must add up to 360 degrees. We can't say that this is a trapezium, because what do we need for it to be a trapezium? One pair of opposite sides must be equal, and we don't have it here. So one thing you can't do is make stuff up. Okay, you have to only deal with what's in front of you, not what you wish was there or guess was there. You can only deal with the facts. Okay, you're like a lawyer. You only deal with the facts, or a judge. And the facts are that we have a quadrilateral. Nothing, it's not a special one. No special features are indicated, only that it's got 4 sides and 4 angles. So all we can know is that the angles must add up to 360. So if we want to calculate x, we're going to say 55 plus 70 plus 90 plus x is 360. And some of you have solved it in the chat already. Thank you. We Sile and Melly and everyone else who have solved it, Bufle, and we get x is 145. Now we can't just write stuff and not give reasons. So the reason here, when you write this equation, you have to say why. Why can you say this? And the reason you can say this is because of the interior angles of a quadrilateral. That's your reason. Okay. Now, guys, these reasons are really important, and you can't change the wording of the reasons. You have to learn the reasons as they are. So maybe your teacher has given you a list of the reasons and stuff, and the Department of Education also prints or publishes all the acceptable reasons. They're very, very strict on that. Okay, so you have to learn the reasons exactly. You can't deviate or change the words in the reasons or anything like that. Just learn it. And once you learn it, like I learned it way back in the day when I was in school, and I still know it. So once you learn it, it will stay with you. Okay, let's go on to the next question. And now I want you to work on it for a bit. We are going to find the missing angles marked X, Y, and Z. So before we start, the first thing we need to do is identify the shape. And once you have identified the shape, I want you to say why it is that shape. So put in the chat, what shape is this? And give a reason why. Remember that thing with the reason? Geometry is all about the reasons. You have to say why. So, Amukalani, if you say it is a parallelogram, why? Artie's writing code there. I don't know what that means. Okay, so we've established that this is a parallelogram. And the reason we say that is because the opposite sides are parallel. Okay, so don't worry, you can abbreviate stuff. You don't have to write everything in words. So now that we have identified, so this is your thought process, okay? It's first identify the shape. Now we're going to take the properties of that shape and apply them. So what are the properties of a parallelogram? Okay, we've already said the opposite sides are parallel. What are some of the other properties of a parallelogram? Put them in the chat. The opposite angles are equal. What else? The opposite sides are equal. Okay, the interior angles add up to 360 and the diagonals bisect. Good. Okay, so now that you've got those in your head, now we're going to start solving the actual question. So let's start with X. And I want you to work for the next 2 minutes on your own. Solve for X and then Y and then Z. And make sure when you do it, just hold your answers. Don't put anything in the chat. Work on your own for 2 minutes. Solve for X, Y, and Z. And make sure as you work and you do X, Y, and Z that you write reasons. Okay, so 2 minutes. We'll check back at 17:41. Okay, let's do X. Nokotula, you need to unrust yourself. You are too young to be rusty. I'm the only person in the room who has reason to be rusty. Because I'm the oldest. Okay, so people are saying that X is equal to 72. How do we know that? Co-interior. Uyisa, I think you mean X, eh? Co-interior angles. Okay, that's X. And let's do Y. So Y can be 72 co-interior or opposite angles. of a parallelogram. Okay, so we're not working with sides at all at the moment. We are just doing angles. So we shouldn't be using the word sides in our answers. And then what is Z equal to? Z can be because of co-interior angles. And what is the other reason? I see people still putting answers without reasons. Answers without reasons get no marks in tests, guys. And then you cry. Okay, so we're going to say Z is 108. Opposite angles. You don't stop there. Opposite angles of a what? Of a parallelogram. So Nosipo says she didn't get 72 for X. So Nosipo, look carefully. They are co-interior angles because these lines are parallel. I'm going to draw the U for you. Maybe you can then spot it easier. And I reiterate this again. I can't say this enough. Your reasons have to be right if you want to get your answers, if you want to get your marks. Can't leave off the reason. In grade 10, we start to just do this. 1 mark for statement and reason. So you can get the value of the angle right and the reason is wrong, there's no mark. Okay, so you really have to pay attention to that. Sibukazi, you could have found X using co-interior angles as well. That's fine. Okay, let's do this last one. Find the missing angles. Actually, let's go to this one. Find the missing angles X and Y. Don't put anything in the chat. I just want you to identify the shape, give a reason why, and then you can do your X and your Y with reasons. And it's going to be like a little 4-mark test. So at quarter 2, guys, the 72 comes from co-interior. Co-interior angles add up to 180. Don't put anything in the chat, and Saku, work on your own. Just work on your own now for the last question. I'm just helping Georgia Lynn with the X. That's 72. It's because 108 and 72 make 180 for co-interior angles. Okay, 1 more minute. Okay, don't put anything in the chat, just mark your work where you did it now. So kite, this is a kite. Why? Because the adjacent sides, hold on, not just the adjacent sides, 2 pairs of adjacent sides are equal. Then we're going to say X is 100 degrees. Your reason there is opposite angles of a kite. And then Y is going to be 360 minus 100 minus 100 minus 104. And that is 56. And the reason there is interior angles of a kite. Okay, so give yourself little marks here. So for saying that it's a kite with the reason 2 pairs of adjacent sides equal, using exactly those words, that's one little mark. You can give yourself a mark for kite as well. And then X is 100, reason, opposite angles of a kite, Y is 56, and reason. Yes, if you said equal instead of just the symbol equal, that's fine. And then give yourself a mark out of 6 for doing that. Okay, Asanda's got their hand up.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi there.
Hi, I wanted to ask, how did you get the 56 degrees?
Okay, everyone listen up. There's a few who are asking it in the chat as well. So let's start with X is 100 because of opposite angles of a kite. And then all the angles of the kite, the interior angles, must add up to 360. So you go 360 minus 100 minus the other 100 minus 104 is going to give you Y. And then Y is 56. Okay,